Crystal Graham with Augusta Free Press, and I am joined by Kenny Lee, Waynesboro City Council member. Hi, Kenny. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
So, 2 years in on your council term now, or almost, I guess, and just curious how things have gone so far.
It's been a fun experience. I've learned a lot about city government and how city government operates. And so uh, I think I have a better understanding for the next 2 years uh, as we move forward growing the city.
So, I always like to ask people, especially after they've gotten their feet wet a little bit, but is the job what you expected?
It is, that's hard to say. Having never been in city government, but
Hmm.
spending 28 years in the Air Force and now as a federal employee, some things I can relate and I can compare. So that's been helpful. And then again, there was that learning curve, but it's been fun. It's been enjoyable and it's been a true learning experience. So I would say a little bit of both. Some things I
Hmm.
didn't expect, and then other things, yeah, okay, that's kind of like what government does. So, yeah.
So with you, I think what we'll do first is we'll kind of look back at some of the things that you've accomplished and then maybe look at what you hope to accomplish in the next 2 years. But I thought we'd first start maybe with some of the biggest challenges that you feel like you faced since you got on council.
Making sure that the citizens of Waynesboro fully understand some of the decisions that are being made. What I've learned and what I've observed is misinformation.
Hmm.
Folks believe things happen for a certain reason, and they don't have all the facts. So I've worked really hard trying to get out the true process and make sure that folks understand what goes behind some of the decisions that are being made.
I know one of your platform issues when we first talked when you were running for council was that you really wanted to see employees paid fairly, and you wanted to, I think at the time, a lot of city employees were getting $11 an hour, and you also wanted to try to fill some police vacancies. You talked about how people are often trained here, but then they go elsewhere that pays more. Have you been able to accomplish anything on those two goals?
Yeah, we made great strides as far as city employees and their salaries. They were increased, so they're most are well above the $11 that was there when we came on or when I came on. And we continue to look at that and address that so that we can retain those employees because they are critical to the success of Waynesboro. As far as public safety, we unfroze 4 positions within the police department, and they're currently seeking applicants for the force. We've also increased their pay to make them more competitive. We're not quite there with maybe UVA and Albemarle County and things of that nature, but we've done a good job of making it competitive so that they can stay on the force after that training period and that 3 year period that they're required, or 5 year period that they're required. So we're working well in those areas.
Yeah, I talked to Terry Short earlier this week, and one of his frustrations, he said, and I'm just curious how you feel about this, is that, um, there's always a move to try to hold the tax rate exactly where it is, and there were some additional positions for both fire and police that you all had hoped, or at least he had hoped, to be able to add in the budgeting cycle. What's that balance? The balance of keeping the tax rate the same versus adding those positions that he feels like, that the city is still behind as far as filling some of those key positions.
Well, I think it's always nice to have a low tax rate, but you don't want to have a low tax rate at the expense of public safety and other areas of the city. So I think that you, my opinion is that we put this conversation and in front of the constituents, in front of the citizens, and say, hey, if we have to do that, this is what you will see. that tangible. You may see more fire department, you may see more police, you may see more sheriffs, whatever the case may be. I think going forward, I want to make it as transparent as possible so that the citizens understand what we're trying to do, and let them have a voice in that process.
I know you said that, and you said that when we first talked, when you were running for council, but you know that the idea of having citizens engaged in some of the decision making that council makes, and you talked about, trying to get over some of the misconceptions that people have. But how have you found that to be as far as citizens and their role in speaking up when you guys have issues before council?
It varies. It varies on the topic. It varies. Some councils sessions we have very little public comment, and then some the chambers is full. So I think it just kind of varies from topic to topic, and based on that particular interest in that topic and how it affects those citizens that show up. So.
So when we talked last, again, when you were running, one of the things that you said that was really on your mind was homelessness and housing insecurity in Waynesboro. Do you feel like you've been able to make any strides in the city so far on that?
Unfortunately, I'm not as much as I would like. It's a really, really complicated issue, and what the city can do and what the city cannot do. We did designate some revitalization areas within the city, and those areas now were recipients of the income tax credit, and so we'll have some developments going up in those two areas that will address affordable rental properties. So we're very excited and happy that we were able to realize that, and so we're making baby steps, but it's still on the radar, and it's still something that we're very concerned about.
During your tenure on council, a lot has happened in the city. Sunset Park has opened, the South River Preserve, the Greenway's been extended. We finally broke ground on the Weston Fire Station, which is a project that has been very, very long in the making. But you still have some big things on council's agenda coming forward, things like the Natural History Museum and seeing that move forward. Um, what are some of the issues that you see, some of the bigger issues coming before council in the next couple years?
I think getting the high school, the new addition, and the gymnasium, getting that completed is something that's very important to council. Um, Getting the Nature's Crossing Technology Center, getting that up and viable, and creating more revenue for the city. That's something that we want to do. Greatly looking forward to the opening of Northrop Grumman, and what that's going to bring to the city. So there are several things out there that we're excited about, and we think that it's going to put Waynesboro on that upward trajectory.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention all the development that's happening in Waynesboro now and on the housing side of things.
Mhm.
I know some of it is more of a, planning issue and that kind of thing because it's already zoned properly. But it does seem from the outside looking in that there is a lot of development happening in Waynesboro between townhouses, apartments, and housing in Waynesboro. And again, that may or may not really help with that issue of affordability. How do you feel about all the development as far as housing and stuff like that that's happening in Waynesboro? There's a lot of citizens who feel like it's a lot.
Yeah, yeah, and I've heard that, and I think what we struggle with is, Crystal, the by right designation. So a developer owns that property. It is zoned correctly. There's not a request coming to council to rezone, and so that developer meets all of the zoning and ordinance requirements, and so essentially they can do as they please, as long as they're meeting the city codes. And I think that that's a misunderstanding by some citizens that think that city council is just simply approving these, and honestly, we're not. Uh, by law, we're following the law of the state. So, um,
So you were one member of Planning Commission that recently voted in favor of cottage court housing, which is kind of, grouped housing, as you know.
Yep.
Um, how do you feel like that? I know it comes before a council this week, but how do you feel like that might help the city move forward on affordability?
Well, everything that I've saw and everything all the information that we were given, it appeared to be something that could fall into the category of making it more affordable for some of our working citizens. And then, of course, we have some proffers on that will prevent it going outside of what it was designed to be. So excited to see where that goes, and hopefully that it can address some of the affordability issues as well.
So one of the things we talked about when you were running, of course, was diversity on council. A lot of
Mhm.
people will say, the planning commission, the city council, the town has been run by, a bunch of white men for a long time. And of course, Lana Williams is mayor now, first woman mayor. We've had Elzina Anderson was the
Mhm.
first black woman on council, and we've least recently Lori Strother was also elected to council. So there will be two black council members serving at the same time. How do you feel that helps city council and the citizens?
I think it just shows the what Waynesboro is. Waynesboro is a great place. It has great people, and we don't necessarily, in my opinion, look at color as an obstacle. And I think that me being on council and representing Ward C is evidence of that, and I believe the same for Lori being elected in Ward A. And so it just shows our diversity and that we're all in this together. It is our communities, it is our city, and we want the best for our city.
No, you're 2 years in, you've got 2 years to go. How are you feeling about possibly running again, or is it just too early to know?
uh, I enjoy it. And so there's some frustrations that come with it naturally because you want to do a lot of things that you can't because it's city government, and you want to solve world hunger, and you just can't do that overnight. So some of that is frustrating, but I think it's too early now. I just want to get in and get to work on with the new members of council, and get some things done that were on the agenda that we weren't able to address in the first 2 years. So looking forward to it, and I'll make that decision soon.
Well, of course, we have two new council members coming on board with Jeremy Sloat and Lori Strother. Terry
Yep.
Short was reelected. He's a long-term person on council, but he said that he doesn't necessarily look to himself to be mayor again. He's got some new responsibilities with his own job and that kind of thing. I'm
Right.
going to put you on the spot here, but any interest in being the mayor of Waynesboro?
I would be honored if that's what my colleagues uh, would want me to do. I would be honored. It's an honor to serve, and that would just be another honor on top of that.
All right. Well, that's all my questions for you today. I appreciate you catching us up on everything, Kenny.
All right. Thanks so much, Crystal. I appreciate it. Take
All right.
care.